What's good, everybody? It's the Clodo and Cab Show. NFL Week 3. Shout out to my Indianapolis Colts getting the dub, which I was really surprised. I obviously went against them, but they got the dub in overtime over the Baltimore Ravens. Shout out to Matt Gay. Hopefully he's not gay, but Matt Gay, he took off 4 field goals, and all 4 of the field goals were over 50 yards. Man, shout out to Matt, man. Hey, he just balled out, and really, he outplayed Justin Tucker. He really did. Even though Justin Tucker's the best field goal kicker in the NFL by far, by a long shot, he did miss a field goal to win it. To win it in regulation. So Justin Tucker, he knows he messed this up. He knows he gave Matt Gay another opportunity. And Matt Gay was really gay and happy. You know what I'm saying? So, shout out to Matt Gay one time, man. The Colts really took off. And not to mention Zach Moss. He had 122 yards rushing. He balled out. And really, I'm looking at the Ravens right now, and I'm looking at Lamar and saying, man, they really had a sluggish game. I mean, everything's on Lamar. I mean, it really is. He had 202 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. It's not much he could do. I mean, he needs more weapons around Lamar. And I think Coach Harbaugh understands, hey, if we want to win a championship like we did back in 2013, we need pieces for Lamar Jackson. Because if not, we're going to just end up losing games that we should win. And then Zay Flowers, he had 8 receptions, 48 yards. But, it was all Indianapolis Colts at the end of the game. And really, I think what messed it up was actually the officials. It was Lamar. They went for it on a 4th and 5, 4th and 4. And really, it was the Colts defender that pass interference. I believe it was Zay Flowers on a little slant route. And it was clearly pass interference. But obviously, I'll take it. Me being a Colts fan, I'll be like, hey, we'll take that. But if I was a Baltimore Ravens fan, I would have jumped and been like, really? You guys aren't going to throw that flag at home? He clearly was over me before the ball got there. So, they missed that. But hats off to the Colts. Hats off to Matt Gay, man. He's gay right now of happiness, filled with joy. So shout out to Matt Gay, the Indianapolis Colts, getting the dub in overtime, baby. Let's go! And then we got the Tennessee Titans versus the Cleveland Browns. Look, I picked the Tennessee Titans in this matchup. I thought for sure they would win. But, come to reality, they still have Ryan Tannehill. So they're still not going to make it to the Super Bowl. And I'm looking at Derrick Henry. They're just giving him way too many carries now. In the past, 4 years he's been there, 5 years. They've just been giving him, 25, 30-plus carries a game, dude, for that many times. So I just think it's just a workload over time. And he got 11 carries, which really isn't a lot for Derrick Henry, but only 20 yards. I'm looking at Derrick Henry and thinking, dude, he's really fallen off a little bit, definitely in fantasy football-wise, which is crazy. But, shout out to Deshaun Watson, finally a bounce-back game, 289 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, 116 yards receiving and a touchdown. It was all Cleveland, and I really should have went with Cleveland, but part of me was just Tennessee Titans had the better offensive line, better run game, but I was clearly wrong on that. It was all Cleveland Browns, and like I said, shout out to Deshaun Watson, filling in for, obviously Nick Chubb being out for the whole season. I mean, that's a huge loss for the Cleveland Browns. If Nick Chubb was still there right now and not hurt, I do think that the Browns could be a playoff team. But right now, I still think there's an outside chance they'll miss the playoffs. But a huge win beating the shitty Tennessee Titans, really. And then we got the Miami Dolphins versus the Denver Broncos. Miami Dolphins scored the second most points in NFL history with 70. They're only 3 away from the record with 73 points. I mean, Denver only put up 20, but it was all Tua. And Tua's in one of my fantasy leagues. He's balling out. Whoever has Tua in their fantasy league, you are winning games. Okay, put it that way. Tua went 23 for 26, 309 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Straight balled out. Not to mention the running backs. Moser went crazy, 3 touchdowns. And then you had, obviously, Tyreek Hill, 157 yards receiving and a touchdown. I mean, Miami Dolphins right now, the way they are playing, dude, I'm telling you, dude, I think they're going to beat Buffalo next week. I really do. I just think their offense is just clicking on all cylinders. And who's going to stop Tyreek Hill? Really, nobody can. You're going to have to double or triple team Tyreek Hill. At least double him. Because that's not enough. I mean, Tyreek Hill, he'll bust you. He'll burn you. He's quicker than you. He's faster than you. Okay, you might be stronger than him, but he's gone. He's got skates, and that's why they call him Cheetah. So, shout out to Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins. And I'm looking at Denver and realizing, man, man, dude, they suck. And Russell Wilson, the hunger, the ambition of football is clearly gone. It really is. And then, Cortland Sutton, he balled out 71 yards receiving and a touchdown for Denver. But other than that, it was just really flat for Denver. No defense, and really Russell Wilson does not look like, Russell Wilson back in Seattle. It's sad. It's like a nightmare that you continue to have over and over in your life. And it's just like, man, this gotta stop, dude. Like, it's gotta stop at one point. But, shout out to the Miami Dolphins, 70. Putting up 70, dude. This is like the NBA numbers. This is crazy. Shout out to Tua. These are mad numbers. I mean, it's unfair. It really is. And right now, the Miami Dolphins are the hottest team in the NFL by far. Shout out to Tua and the Miami Dolphins. They continue to roll. Take off. And then we got the New England Patriots versus the New York Jets. I picked the Jets with the upset, and they were very close in this matchup. But I'm starting to realize, Zach Wilson probably isn't the guy. They should bench him and just bring in whoever their backup is because, obviously with Aaron Rodgers going out in week 1, that was it for them, dude. It was just the beginning of the end, in the Patriots. I mean, they squeaked out a good, okay victory. But that was their first dub all season, dude. I mean, in week 3, who would have thought that, back in Tom Brady's days, that they would have been 3-0 by now. Like that, it's just crazy. Mac Jones, 1 touchdown, 201 yards passing, just, subpar numbers really for Mac Jones. I'm not really thrilled with Mac Jones. He's another quarterback that's probably going to miss the playoffs yet again this year. So, like, what are we talking about, So, I guess a big win for the Patriots, but then again, it's really not. So, you're playing the trash Jets right now. The reality setting in for the New York Jets. Rodgers is done for the year. The Jets are seemingly done. That was their game to win here. That was their game to steal there, is to get above, 2-1. Now they're 1-2 on the outside looking in. It's going to be a long season for the New York Jets. And then we got the Buffalo Bills beating the Washington Commanders. I mean, absolutely blowing them out. And that's what I wanted to see with the Buffalo Bills. I wanted to see Josh Allen get back in the groove, his swagger back. He did. He had a touchdown and a rushing touchdown, 218 yards passing, and his boy Stephon Diggs, 111 yards receiving. And that's what Buffalo does. But my thing is with the Buffalo Bills is, do they have the defense to run deep in the playoffs? I mean, we know the Buffalo Bills are going to make the playoffs, but how deep? Are they going to go to the Super Bowl? Are they going to, go there and actually win the Super Bowl instead of lose like they've had in the 90s? I think they lost 4 times in the Super Bowl. Crazy, but I'm looking at Josh Allen and saying there still is a window to win a Super Bowl. My thing is, what about the defense? When is Von Miller coming back? When are these guys going to really step up? Because you got Miami, and I'm telling you what, with Tua, Miami Dolphins, and Tyreek Hill, they're putting up crazy numbers. So the Buffalo Bills defense is going to be really, really on their P's and Q's this coming up weekend, or it's going to be a long, long game for them. It really is. And Washington Commanders and Sam Howell threw for 4 interceptions. So, I mean, shout out to the Bills, but they got their hands full next weekend. I can't wait to that primetime matchup, Josh Allen and Tua. It's going to be great. I cannot wait. So, shout out to the Buffalo Bills killing the Washington Commanders. And then we got the Detroit Lions versus the Atlanta Falcons. It was all Detroit Lions. I picked the Lions. This was an easy pick for me. I got Jared Goff, 243 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick, and it went with the under, and the under actually hit. I was actually right. On the over and unders, I'm typically wrong on, but this one hit. St. Brown, 9 receptions, 102 yards receiving. Desmond Ridder, 201 yards passing, but it just wasn't enough. Only 6 points, and it was all Detroit Lions. And I've been on the Lions. I really have. Ever since last year, they went, I believe, finished the year like 8-2, something crazy, high numbers like that. I'm telling you, the Detroit Lions this year will make the playoffs. Why? Because of Jared Goff and St. Brown alone. I mean, these guys, they're on the same page. Their offense is looking good. And not to mention the Detroit Lions defense is looking great. It really is, putting pressure on the quarterback. Their defensive line's good. So I think the Detroit Lions this year are definitely an X-Factor team, a dark horse team to really run deep this year. I know it sounds crazy. I always call the Detroit Lions trash, rubbish, but this year they've really picked it up. Even from last year, the second half of last year to now, I'm telling you, the Detroit Lions are back on the map, and it starts with Jared Goff. Shout out to the Detroit Lions getting the dub. And then we got the New Orleans Saints versus the Green Bay Packers. I got so lucky in this one. I picked the Green Bay Packers in a close one. They came back and won, and I feel bad for Derek Carr. Getting hurt. He's got an AC joint, AC joint. To me, it sucks, and I think Derek Carr will probably be out for a couple weeks. He will be back. We know that. Chris Olave, over 100 yards receiving for the Saints, but the Saints had this one in the bag. They really did. They fumbled it away. But, due when credit is due. Shout out to the Green Bay Packers. Shout out to Jordan Love, man. 259 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick. Really seems calm and composed in the pocket. That's the most thing I like about Jordan Love right now in the first 3 games is he doesn't seem to panic. He doesn't seem to have that pressure, get to him. So I think that's huge news for the Green Bay Packer fans moving forward, not just this year, but in the future, to keep Jordan Love, to believe in this kid. He learned from Aaron Rodgers, so I think there's a bright future in Green Bay. But for the Saints, you got, crab finger Jameis Winston, man. Hopefully his hands aren't too crabby off the crab meats, but, hopefully Jameis Winston takes off next week against his former team in Tampa. That's going to be great. But shout out to the Green Bay Packers getting the job done. And then we got the Houston Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was way off on this pick. I picked the Jags, obviously. I thought Trevor Lawrence would snap off ETN and those guys, Christian Kirk. But no, it was all the Houston Texans. And it started with rookie C.J. Stroud, man. Shout out to C.J. Stroud, 280 yards passing with 2 tutties. Tank Dill, 145 yards receiving and a touchdown. And Houston really, they look like obviously like the better team, really blew them out 37-17. And it really wasn't competitive in the fourth quarter. And I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence. He had really a quiet game, 279 yards passing and touchdown and a pick. It's just not enough. And I just think for the Jacksonville Jaguars, are they that window's starting to close? Like their defense is kind of sus. Their secondary's not that good. So I think Jacksonville Jaguars, who I thought would win the AFC South right now, doesn't look too well. They just don't. It's kind of wide open right now. It's definitely with my Indianapolis Colts getting a big upset win in Baltimore this past weekend. So for me, it's just like, oh my. Like, what are the Jacksonville Jaguars about? This was a huge win for the Texans. I don't think anybody saw this win coming. Even the Texan fans. I think they were just all in shock too. I really was. But shout to C.J. Stroud. He proved me wrong. And they got the upset. Like I said, any given Sunday, anything's possible. Shout to the Houston Texans and C.J. Stroud. And this was my lock pick of the week, and it hit. The L.A. Chargers over the Minnesota Vikings, 28-24. Like I said, the Minnesota Vikings, they're just prima donnas. They have a great offense, flashy players and all this stuff, but yet they're still losing games. They haven't even won a game yet this year. So that's crazy, right? But Justin Herbert, about time he balled out with 3 touchdowns over 400 yards passing, 405 yards passing to be exact. So Justin Herbert did his thing finally. Keenan Allen, who's on my fantasy squad, 215 yards receiving, and he also threw for a touchdown pass. So Keenan Allen snapped off. I think he gave me like 44 points, which is insane for a receiver, dude. Like 44, that's more Tyreek put up this week. So shout out to Keenan Allen, man. Shout out to the Chargers. And I saw this coming. Even though Kirk Cousins, he puts up good stats, 367 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. But, Justin Jefferson, his boy, 149 yards receiving and a touchdown, but they just have no defense. And I'm looking at Minnesota, and I don't want to blame it all on Kirk Cousins because I still think he's a okay quarterback. Their defense is terrible. It really is. They put no pressure on the quarterback. Their secondary is just terrible. Shout out to the Chargers, man. Going in Minnesota, getting their first win of the season, and yet the Minnesota Vikings are winless, dude. Make it make sense. Somebody needs to be fired in Minnesota. Shout out to the LA Chargers. And then we got the Seattle Seahawks versus the Carolina Panthers. I picked Seattle. They won by 10. Andy Dalton, really, he snapped off. 361 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. He did his thing. Adam Thielen, 145 yards receiving and a touchdown for the Panthers. I mean, they were in this game for sure, but it was all Seattle. And Geno Smith, 296 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick. And then you got Kenneth Walker on my fantasy squad, 97 yards rushing and 2 tutties, man. Hey, he snapped off 2. I think Kenneth gave me 30 points this week. I went over 200 points this week. Most in my league, in one of my fantasy leagues, man. This is crazy. I love it. DK Metcalf, 112 yards receiving, and Seattle won 37-27. Just like I said, this one was probably the easiest. You had the rookie. He was out with an injury. So I just think right now with the Panthers, getting in their backup and Andy Dalton, it just wasn't enough. It really wasn't. And Bryce Young, like I said, the rookie out. So this was an easy pick. Shout out to the Seattle Seahawks. Really not that good of a win, but hey, a win is a win in the NFL. That's all that matters in the NFL. And then we got the upset of the weekend, the Arizona Cardinals over the Dallas Cowboys. And look, like I said before, the Cowboys, it's the same over and over again. It's the same movie, dude. It's the same ending every time. They do good in the regular season, then they come up short in the playoffs, and this is the pivotal game. That's what I'm talking about. This is Dallas Cowboys 2.0. This is Dak Prescott, a.k.a. Tony Romo 2.0. Dak Prescott throws a pick late game to seal the deal. That's what the stuff I'm talking about here. That's why the Dallas Cowboys got Trey Lance. Why do you think this? They don't believe in Dak. You think Dallas believes in Dak? You think Jerry Jones believes in Dak anymore? Absolutely not. And this is why. You have so much talent, dude. You really do. Tony Pollard, 23 carries, 122 yards rushing. I mean, dude, there's just no one to show for it. Joshua Dobbs, the starting quarterback for Arizona, actually had a decent game. 189 yards passing and a touchdown, dude. James Conner, 98 yards rushing and a touchdown, and Arizona won 28-16, dude. I never saw this coming. I don't even think Arizona fans saw this coming. Their first win all season, and it's to Dallas. And I'm looking at Dallas and saying, wow, Diggs goes out with the ACL injury last week, and then you guys lose to the worst team in the NFL. What's next for the Dallas Cowboys? And I'm looking at Dak Prescott, and time's ticking. And I do think if they end up not going to the Super Bowl this year, I do think the Dallas Cowboys will release Dak Prescott. I think they should have did this 2 years ago and got somebody young in the draft. I really do. I just, that's my opinion. I don't want to just blame it all on Dak because, Dallas Cowboy fans get in their feels about Dak Prescott. They get their feelings hurt. But at the end of the day, the results don't lie. The numbers don't lie. It's just Tony Romo 2.0 again. You're just reliving it over and over again, dude. It's silly. It really is. Shout out to the Arizona Cardinals getting the upset of the weekend, baby. Take off, Arizona. Let's go. And then we got the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Chicago Bears, absolutely destroying them. Patrick Mahomes, 3 tutties, 272 yards passing, and not to mention Travis Kelce balling out with 69 yards receiving and a touchdown, and his girl was in attendance, T Swift. Shout out to Taylor Swift one time. We never go out of style. We never go out of style. So, Travis Kelce, he's balling. He's balling on and off the field. So, shout out to Travis Kelce, man. Shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. All that, they're just winning. That's what they do best. And I feel bad for Justin Fields. I mean, he had 99 yards passing with a touchdown and an interception with 47 yards rushing. DJ Moore had a touchdown, 41 yards receiving. But the Bears, man, they stink, dude. They really do. I think they need to fire their coaching staff and start from scratch. Keep Justin Fields, keep DJ Moore, and start from scratch next year. I mean, it's over. The Chicago Bears season is over already, and it's not even week 4 yet. They're done. They're done. But shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. Shout out to Mahomes and Kelce. They are taking off. Take off Kansas City. And then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. This was another easy game for me. I picked the Raiders, I picked Pittsburgh. I was going to pick the Raiders. I ended up switching it to the Pittsburgh Steelers because I thought, hey, Kenny Pickett's starting to pick back up, starting to get in the groove of things, and not to mention the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is legit, and it starts with TJ Watt. I mean, he's been balling out, but shout out to Kenny Pickett. 235 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris is still due for a big game. He had 19 carries, only 65 yards rushing. My thing is, when is Najee Harris going to snap off? He's from Alabama. You should be a great, running back for Alabama. My thing is, when are you going to snap off? It's sad. It's sad to see Alabama running backs not do well. And Najee Harris is one of these guys. He needs to snap off. He's due for a big game. George Pickens, 75 yards receiving. And Jimmy G, he had 2 touchdowns with 3 picks. Like I said, Jimmy G's not a good quarterback. He got a concussion this game. Dude, I just think Jimmy G's a backup quarterback. He's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. And if he is, look at the team. They're going to be below 500. And Josh Jacobs, 62 yards rushing. Not the Josh Jacobs that I knew from last year, right, dude? He's on my fantasy squad. He only got me like 9 or 10 points, dude. Josh Jacobs last year was snapping off for 25, 30 by now. So I'm expecting Josh Jacobs to pick back up. Hopefully in these later, into the middle season weeks to where he's going to snap off. Josh Jacobs, please snap off. And Devontae Adams, he does what he always does, and that's ball out. He had 172 yards receiving and 2 tutties. I mean, it's crazy, man. Devontae Adams, such an underrated receiver in the NFL. Doesn't get talked about that much, but Devontae Adams is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, pound for pound, no doubt about it. So shout out to Devontae Adams, but Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett, man, I'm telling you, they are on the map in the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Mark my words. they will make the playoffs. Shout out to head coach Mike Tomlin. They're going to make the playoffs. I'm telling you right now, Kenny Pickett, take off. And then we got the Monday Night Football game, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I picked Philly. I took the 5-point spread. It hit. It was all Philly. You know, Jalen Hurts, 277 yards passing with a touchdown. He did have 2 picks. DeAndre Swift, he's been breaking out, dude. The running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, 130 yards rushing. He's been balling, dude, and he hurdled some dude on Monday night. That was crazy, dude. Some of these athletes, I feel like the running back position in the NFL is such a devalued position. That's one of the most important positions in the NFL. They need to start paying running backs more money, dude, really. I mean, I'm telling you right now, A.J. Brown, 9 receptions, 131 yards receiving for Philly. It was all Philly. They got the job done, and Baker just a low-key game. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Mike Evans, he had a touchdown, 60 yards receiving, but it wasn't enough. In Philadelphia, like I said, they're the team that's really going to run deep. You know, and out of the team, obviously they lost in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, but Kansas City and Philadelphia, between the two, I think Philadelphia is going to run deeper this year. They had the better defense. They are deeper at positions. And I'm telling you, Jalen Hurts is that guy. He really is. Not to say Patrick Mahomes is. Obviously, we know Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. But right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team overall. And I put Philly in the top 3 teams right now in the NFL, probably at number 3. But shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then we got the LA Rams versus the Bengals. I picked the Bengals at 3. Look, I'm looking at the Bengals and realizing with Joe Burrow, you got so much talent. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. But something right now isn't really clicking a lot. I'm just looking at Cincinnati and saying, I'm looking at Joe Burrow and their offensive coordinator and saying, what's the problem here? You know, last year you guys were putting up 30s in the 30s. Now, you know, all of a sudden you guys are only scoring like 13 points. Like, this is crazy. It's crazy to me. I think Cincinnati Bengals will eventually turn their season around, and they're going to go back to the playoffs. Their window isn't closing. They have so much talent, okay? So Joe Burrow and company, they're good. But as far as L.A. Rams, you know, you got Kyron Williams. He's a good back out of Notre Dame. I'm still not giving up on the Rams. They got their great, smart coach. They got Matt Stafford, and they got Cooper Kupp eventually coming back. I think he'll be back by week 5 or 6, hopefully with a hamstring injury. But overall, I'm really worried about the Bengals here. The Bengals, you guys have so much talent. There's no reason why they should not be scoring in the 30s anymore. I don't know what it is, but I'm looking at the offensive coordinator and saying, hey, you know, you guys got to ramp that up 100%. But, you know, what a week 3 for the NFL. Really some big games. You know, shout out to my Indianapolis Colts. I doubted the Colts. I thought for sure we would lose without our starting rookie quarterback. And I just, Anthony Richardson, I'm kind of in shock, man. I'm happy that the Colts won. Obviously, you know, shout out to Matt Gay. He took off. But obviously, my lock pick of the week was the Chargers, and it hit. So it's good when my bets are hitting, absolutely. But the hottest team in the NFL is definitely the Miami Dolphins. I cannot wait till week 4 to see the Miami Buffalo Bills matchup. But shout out to my Indianapolis Colts getting the upset win. It's the NFL. It's the Clown with Cab show. Let's go!